Hi, good morning, and welcome to another session of the Aston Data Academy for the first cohort. And today we'll be looking at MySQL, or SQL. Some people pronounce it as SQL. And then all we would do is would look at some basic functions or statements. We'll be looking at the select statements. We'll be looking at the where clause, and we'll be looking at the group by function, and we'll also look at the other by concept of what we're doing, right? So you start with a select statement. You say select all from, you use an asterisk, and then you type the word itself from, and then you can pick from any of the tables. Right now we have 3 tables, but let's go with employee demographics. So you write it as it is. This simple statement is the first thing when you start practicing you should do. In other words, you're saying to MySQL Workbench, and because Aston employee data is selected, you're saying, give me all the information that currently exists in this table, which is called employee demographics. Now, because we only have one line of query, we can just hit this lightning and it gives you the results here. Remember, when you do select and you use asterisk, you're saying select and give me every column in that table. That's what it means. Select all from employee salary. The word all is signified using this asterisk. So give me every column and the information of those columns in the employee salary. But let's just say you don't want every column, as I've explained. You could have tables that have 15, 20 columns, and you don't want every of those columns. You just probably want 2 or 3. Maybe you just want the first name and the last name. To do that, you then change this all here to the names of the columns you want. So if we want only the employee ID, first name, and the last name, you then come and write it, select employee ID. Now we also want the first name, so you put a comma, right? And then start typing first name. So you just tell SQL the columns you want. So in this case, instead of giving us all, give us just the employee ID, the first name, the last name from employee salary, right? These are the 3 bits we want. So if you run it, it gives you only those 3. You can, in our database, we don't really have duplicates, but then you can also remove duplicates straight up from your result. To do that, you use what we call the distinct keyword. One of the ways to do that in the select statement is to use the distinct keyword, right? So basically what you're telling the database is, in returning this result, ensure that these bits appear only once in terms of their whole result. But like I said, we do not have distinct. So if we had this Leslie Knopp deputy of parks recreation 7,500 and this same thing in number 13, when we use the distinct keyword, they will not appear. So you say select and you put in the distinct keyword, right? So the distinct keyword just makes sure that every row is unique. Remember when we're doing removing of duplicates in Excel, is what the distinct keyword does. It means everything from the employee ID to date of birth must be unique. If there's any bit that is probably, let's say there's a duplicate for it, like we have Leslie duplicated everything, it will remove it from the result. This is good so that when you're trying to do a bit of analysis, you can always have a clean data without duplicates. Okay. Another thing you can do with the select statement is you can do simple calculations. You can do basic calculation. So to do that, once again, you start with a select statement. And so we say select, let's say we want to see their first name, last name, and then their monthly salary. We want to get their monthly salary. We know that this is their yearly salary. So to get the monthly salary, we'll divide their salary by 12. So you write the column name, which is salary, and then you use the divide sign on your keyboard, right? So you're saying, give us the first name, but let's rename it to this first name. Give us the last name, let's rename it to this last name. The value in salary, which is this, let's divide it by 12 to get there. But when we get the value, the header, we should call it monthly salary. So now it will give us the first name as the first name, the way we want it, last name as the last name, and then it's salary. But that was the yearly salary, but we've said rename it to monthly salary. So what it's done is, whatever it is the salary of Leslie Knopp has been divided by 12 to get his monthly salary. So it just confirms that you can also do basic calculations using the select statement, plus some division, depending on what kind of analysis you want to do. Now, the next bit we would go on to is what we call the where clause. Now, what we've done so far is we've told the database, okay, give me this information in this table, give me everything, give me some, or give me some and rename whatever the header was. We've also touched on doing some basic calculation. We also want to quickly touch on the where clause. Now, the where clause is basically for filtering data. So let's just say we want to get all the data, but we only want those who are female. Do you get what I'm saying? That's what you're filtering out the data to only give us female. That's why you use the where clause. So you do select all, and then you bring in the where. So you always come after your select statement. So you're saying select all from the employee demographics. Now, what is the filter we're trying to do in this case? We're trying to say, I want all the information, all the columns we have in the employee demographics, but I only want those that are female. So the female filtering is the gender column. So you then say where the gender is equals to female. That's all. So you're trying to say, give me every information from the employee demographics, but I'm filtering it to only show me females. So you write your whole select statement as we normally do, and then you bring the where clause, and then you select the column that you want to filter by, and then you give the value you want of that column that you want it to appear. So in this case, it's the gender, and in this case, we just want to see only female, right? And then when you run this, you get only female in your results. And we can also filter by age. So you can do something like select all from employee demographics. And then we say something like where age is greater than 30. So in other words, if you remember the rule is when you've written your select statement, you have to select the column which you want to filter by, and then whatever the condition is. So in this case, we're saying what I'm using to filter this particular command is age, but then I want people who are greater than 30. So when you run this, only the employees who are greater than 30 would show in the results. Okay. So we've learned that you can filter by a condition, a statement. You can filter by numbers. You can also do some kind of equal filtering, like equal to this. So you can say something like select all from employee salary, where the salary is equals to 50,000. So what it would do is it will only give us those who have the exact match of 50,000. Now you can also use the where clause as a filtering mechanism for multiple. So we're saying select all from employee salary where we can say that age is greater than 30. And this introduces another keyword which we call and, which is the normal and. So whenever you want to use two conditions, after you've written the first one, which is where the age is greater than 30, you then have to put the keyword and then you select the second condition you want. Again, it follows the format. You highlight which column you want to filter by, let's say in this case, gender, and then we want to see only male. So what we're saying with this statement is give me everything from the employee salary, but this has to be demographics. We do not have age in this employee salary, in the employee salary table. So you're saying give me everything from the employee demographics table, but I want them to be over 30 years old. Their ages should be over 30, and I want the gender to be only male. So those are two conditions. Now, when you run this, you will get only males who are over 30. So that's two conditions. You can also do multiple conditions using the or keyword. For or, it must be one or the other. It could be both, but it could be one or the other. So it's the same format. You do the select all from the employee demographics. But let's say we want to say that their ages should be greater than 30 and their gender should be female, or their gender should be female. So it must be one or the other. So you change the end keyword there to or. So what this means is the result we are expecting is that from the employee demographics, whoever shows in the result must either be greater than 30 years old or must be a female. It must meet one of these conditions. Another aspect we can look out for is, let's say you want to look at not equal to or equal to. So it's simple, it's straightforward. You are saying, give me everybody in the result where their gender is female. Now the other bit is where you use not equals to. So you use the exclamation in front of the equals to. It's negating this. So you're not saying give me everything that is female. You're saying give me everything in the result that are not every gender that are not female. So now we will get male. It gives you the opposite of what equals to is supposed to be. Anytime you want to give it more than one argument for that particular column, the in keyword. So when you use in, it then gives you this. It then gives you the right answer. It gives you everybody, obviously, in our own data set. Instead of doing in and writing out the 5, you use not equals to, and then what you don't want to see in the results. And then it gives you the opposite, right? You can also do, using the select statement, you can also do what we call text matching. You want to look for a specific thing or a specific person in the database, which is like text matching. You can use the equal to sign, obviously. So you can do where first name is equals to the person you're looking for, Leslie. And then when you run this, it gives you only the result for Leslie. And you also use what we call the like keyword. So it's the same process. You do select all from employee demographics. So such situations will arise where you have just maybe 3 keywords. There are 3 ways to do that using the like. You use like as a keyword, right? And there are 3 ways to do that. There's doing it from the front, there's doing it from the back, and there's doing it from, it contains wherever it is in the whole data set. And what do I mean? So if we're doing it, let's say it ends with this. If you want to say, okay, it ends with less or it ends with this thing, you're going to do it like this. Once you've written like, you no longer put the equals to, you put your apostrophe, and then you put your percent sign, right? You write what you want, which is less, and you put your percent sign at the end of it. So you're trying to say, wherever the percent sign is, you're trying to say, search for the employee demographics. Now, any first name that towards the end has less should appear. This will come out empty because we don't have anyone. But if we put the LIE, for instance, Leslie would appear, right? Now, if you want to search for it anywhere in the, you're not looking at it from a specific situation, which mostly is what I do, so I don't have issues, say check from the front. I'm just like looking for anywhere. You put the percent sign both at the front and at the back, right? So you're saying wherever we have LIE in the first name, please give me that particular person, right? And so because we have Leslie and we have LIE in Leslie's name, it will appear. In Leslie's first name, it will appear. If we remove it from this bit and we run this, we are saying that anywhere we have the name LIE at the end should appear. So you put the percent sign in front of the word or the phrase you're looking for. When you put the percent sign in front, you're saying the end, right? And so because we have LIE at the end of Leslie's name, Leslie has at the